I had just finished my shift at the hardware store when I noticed a sticky note on my apartment door. "Hi, it's Emily from 3B. My shower's broken. Any chance you could take a look? I've got no water pressure at all. Please, if you have a minute." I stared at the note for a second, then smiled. Emily had moved in about 2 months ago. Quiet, kind, always wore those oversized hoodies and earbuds in the hallway. We'd spoken maybe 3 times. Still, I grabbed my toolbox and knocked on her door. She opened it almost immediately. "Hey, thank you so much for coming. I know it's late." Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, and she looked a bit flustered, towel slung over her shoulder, phone in one hand. I caught a glimpse of a flickering candle in her bathroom. The whole place smelled faintly like vanilla and lavender. "No problem," I said, stepping inside. "Let's see what's going on." As I knelt under her sink to check the water valves, she sat nearby, trying to be helpful. We talked more in those 20 minutes than we ever had in the hallway. She was a freelance illustrator, hated cold weather, and drank far too much coffee. I admitted I wasn't exactly a plumber, but had fixed enough leaky pipes in this old building to qualify as one. When the shower finally coughed to life with decent water pressure, she clapped like I'd just rebuilt the Hoover Dam. "I owe you one," she grinned. "Seriously?" I was about to lose my mind. I laughed. "You're all set. Just keep an eye on the knob, it might need replacing soon." That was supposed to be it. A neighborly favor. Simple. Over and done with. But something about the way she looked at me that night, it stayed. And I didn't know it yet, but that small favor was about to turn into something I couldn't walk away from. It was 3 days later when I heard another knock. This time, it was Emily at my door. "Hey," she said, holding up a glass baking dish. "I made lasagna. Figured you deserved something more than a thank you." I blinked. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," she smiled. "But I wanted to." We sat down at my small kitchen table, plates and forks between us. It felt strangely natural. Like we'd done it before. Like we were supposed to. We talked about everything, movies we loved, childhood memories, bad first jobs. Her laugh was softer than I expected, like it had edges she was still learning to round off. At one point, I noticed her glancing around my apartment. Her eyes stopped at a framed photo on the bookshelf, me and my little brother when we were kids. "You too close?" she asked. "Used to be," I said. "He moved out west. Life got busy, I guess." She nodded like she understood too well. I didn't ask, but I saw something behind her eyes. A quiet sadness. Something unspoken, heavy. Maybe she'd lost someone too. That night, after she left, I stood by my window and watched her walk down the hall to her apartment. She turned, caught me watching, and waved. I waved back. Something in my chest shifted. I told myself I was just being neighborly. That it was just a thank you dinner. But deep down, I knew better. Emily wasn't just a neighbor anymore. And something told me, this wasn't the last time she'd knock. The next time Emily knocked, it was raining. Hard. Thunder echoed in the distance as she stood at my door, damp hoodie clinging to her arms. "I think I jinxed it," she said. "That shower knob." It finally gave up. She looked embarrassed, but underneath that was something else, a sort of quiet excitement. Like she'd been looking for an excuse. I grabbed my toolbox and followed her down the hall again. Her apartment was warm, filled with soft light and the gentle hum of jazz music playing in the background. The candle from last time was still there, flickering gently on the windowsill. "I'll be quick," I said, kneeling by the tub. "Take your time," she said, handing me a towel to dry off my shoulders. "I made tea." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My chest was already tightening with something I didn't want to admit. As I worked, she sat on the floor behind me, her back against the wall, sipping from a mug. "You ever fix things for fun?" she asked. I smiled without turning. "Honestly? Sometimes. It feels like the only part of life that makes sense. You figure out what's broken, you find the right tool, you fix it." I heard her laugh softly. "Wish people were that simple." I turned then. She wasn't looking at the mug. She was looking at me. And for a moment, it felt like everything else, the storm outside, the dripping faucet, the mug between her fingers, just disappeared. "I'm not good at reading signals," I said, careful. She set the mug down slowly. "Then let me be clear," she replied, voice quiet. "I feel safer when you're around. And I don't even know why yet." I swallowed. I wasn't sure what this was. It wasn't a date. It wasn't romance. Not yet. But it was something real. And I hadn't felt that in a very, very long time. The next morning, I found something strange. Taped to my door was a small envelope. No name. Just a simple drawing of a cracked shower knob, perfectly sketched in pencil. Inside was a note: "Fixing things is your superpower. Thought you should know. E." It made me smile like a fool. Later that day, I stopped by her door to return the favor. I didn't knock, just taped a little drawing of my own to it. A coffee mug with the words, "Let's fix the world one leak at a time." No name. Just an unspoken challenge. That evening, she texted me. Just one word: dinner. I brought takeout. We sat on the couch, legs crossed, sharing noodles and stories. She showed me her sketchbook, pages filled with surreal cityscapes, faceless people, whimsical creatures. I couldn't believe someone who kept to herself so much had such a storm of imagination inside. "Why don't you sell these?" I asked. She hesitated. "I used to try. But the rejections got too loud. And then I stopped trying altogether." I looked her in the eye. "These deserve to be seen." She bit her lip and looked away. "You make it sound so simple. Sometimes the hardest part is believing you're worth more than the world tells you." Silence. Then she whispered, "You ever wish someone would say that to you?" I didn't answer. I just looked at her, and she looked right back. For once, there was no awkwardness. No need to fill the silence. It said more than words could. In that moment, I wasn't just the guy who fixed her shower. I was the guy who saw her. And somehow, that felt even more important. A week passed without a knock. Without a text. Emily had disappeared behind the quiet of her door. At first, I figured she was busy. Then I started to wonder if I'd misread everything. The notes. The looks. The dinners. Then came the storm. The thunder outside rolled in like a warning. I was watching TV when I heard it, 3 rapid knocks. Then silence. I opened the door. There she was, soaked, barefoot, holding her sketchbook against her chest like it was armor. Her voice trembled. "Can I come in?" I nodded and stepped aside. She paced as I handed her a towel. "I'm sorry I disappeared. I didn't mean to. I just panicked." "Why?" She looked up, eyes wet but not from the rain. "Because I've been alone for a long time," she said. "And you made it feel like that wasn't normal anymore." I said nothing. She sat on the edge of my couch, flipping open her sketchbook. The last page was a new drawing, unfinished. It was me. Bent over her tub, wrench in hand, concentration on my face. "I don't draw people," she whispered. "But I needed to draw you." I didn't know what to say. So I sat beside her. Quietly. Then I did the only thing that felt right. I reached over and gently took the pencil from her hand. "May I?" I asked. She nodded. And right there, in the corner of the page, I added something small, a steaming mug of tea on the bathroom floor. Her signature comfort. Our silent symbol. She laughed softly, the kind that catches in your throat. You fixed the drawing too, she whispered. No, I said. Just finished it. And for the first time, I realized, I wasn't just helping fix her world. She was starting to fix mine too. The next morning felt different. Brighter. Like something in the air had shifted, even if nothing had been said out loud. Emily had fallen asleep on the couch beside me. Her sketchbook still rested on the coffee table between us. I didn't wake her. I just watched her breathe for a while, peaceful, like she hadn't slept that well in years. When she stirred, she looked at me with sleepy eyes and mumbled, "Didn't mean to stay." "You did," I said gently. "And I'm glad you did." She smiled, sleepy and warm. "You make it hard to leave." Around noon, she finally returned to her apartment, just to shower, change clothes, and check on her cat. By 2 p.m., she texted, "Want to take a walk before the rain finds us again?" So we did. We wandered through the neighborhood, past the coffee shop she never went into, too many laptop bros, the bookstore she loved, and the bakery that gave free samples if you smiled at the old lady behind the counter. It wasn't a date. But it felt like the beginning of something that didn't need to be labeled yet. When we got back, we stepped into the elevator, both a little quiet now. The doors closed. We stood side by side. No words. Then, the elevator jolted. Just for a second. Enough to make both of us freeze. I laughed. This thing always does that. She grabbed my hand. And didn't let go. Her fingers wrapped around mine like they'd been waiting to. Like they belonged there. When the doors opened again, she didn't let go. We just stood there in the hallway, holding hands like it was the most natural thing in the world. No kiss. No dramatic music. Just a touch. But it said more than either of us could. That elevator didn't trap us. It connected us. And as we stepped out together, it finally hit me. This wasn't about a broken shower anymore. This was about two people who were broken in quiet ways, and were slowly, gently helping each other heal. A few days later, I found a small package outside my door. No note. Just wrapped in brown paper with twine. Inside was a simple wooden photo frame, and inside it, a print of Emily's sketch. The one of me fixing her shower. But now it was finished. She had added more details, the subtle reflection of light on the tile, the tea mug with steam rising, and, on the far edge, a figure sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. Herself. Watching me. Seeing me. Underneath, she'd written in tiny letters, "The moment it all changed." I stared at it for a long time. Then I knocked on her door. She opened it almost immediately, like she'd been waiting. "You framed it," I said. She shrugged, feigning casual. "Thought you should have it. It's yours, after all." I shook my head slowly. "No. It's ours." Her smile faltered, like emotions were pushing up behind it. "Why does this feel like more than just a, whatever this is?" she asked quietly. I stepped closer. "Because it is more," I said. "You know it." "I know it." She looked at me, searching for any hint of hesitation in my voice. When she found none, she exhaled. "I'm scared," she said. "I am too," I admitted. "But maybe we don't have to be." Not anymore. We didn't hug. We didn't kiss. We just stood there, finally letting the silence be a bridge instead of a wall. For once, neither of us needed to fix anything. We just needed to feel it. The next weekend, I was fixing a light fixture in my living room when there was a knock, not hers this time. I opened the door to find my younger brother, Jake, standing there with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and his signature smirk. "Surprise," he said. "You never call, so I figured I'd check if you were still alive." I hadn't seen Jake in nearly 2 years. We'd grown apart after our parents passed, mostly because I pulled away. Too much grief. Too little left to say. "Come in," I said, stunned. He looked around, eyes scanning the apartment. "This place hasn't changed a bit." I half laughed. "You didn't give me time to clean it." As we sat catching up, Jake asked about work, life, and then casually glanced at the framed sketch on my shelf. "Who drew that?" he asked. "A friend," I said. He arched an eyebrow. "Friend, huh?" Just then, there was another knock. Emily. She poked her head in, saw Jake, and hesitated. "Oh, sorry, didn't know you had company." Jake stood and flashed his signature charm. "You must be the artist." Emily blushed, then looked at me for a cue. "Emily," I said, standing. "This is my brother, Jake." They shook hands, and for a moment, I felt oddly exposed. Like 2 parts of my life had collided in a way I hadn't planned. "You two want coffee?" I asked, trying to steady the energy in the room. As I brewed a fresh pot, I listened from the kitchen as Jake asked Emily about her art. She was shy at first, but then she opened up, talking about colors and shading and how she liked to draw emotions more than people. And Jake, surprisingly, was really listening. As I watched them from the doorway, something hit me. This was the first time I'd seen both of them, in the same room, and I wasn't the guy holding everything together. They were connecting on their own. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something strange. Peace. That evening, the 3 of us sat around my tiny kitchen table, me, Emily, and Jake, eating takeout pizza off mismatched plates. It felt oddly normal. Too normal. Jake leaned back in his chair, chewing on the crust. "So, you two?" Emily glanced at me, then back at her plate. I cleared my throat. "It's complicated." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Isn't it always?" There was a pause. Then Emily spoke. "He helped me fix a shower. And now I don't know how to go back to the life I had before." That silenced Jake. For once. She looked at me. He saw me. Not just what I do. Not what people expect. Just me. I felt the weight of her words hit me somewhere deep. "And he fixed things in me I didn't even know were broken," she added, voice trembling just slightly. Jake looked between us, no jokes this time. No smirk. Then he smiled softly. "Well," he said, lifting his soda like a wine glass, "to broken showers and second chances." We all raised our drinks. Clink. It was quiet after that. Peaceful. As Jake crashed on the couch for the night, and Emily lingered behind to help clear the dishes, I turned to her in the doorway. "You didn't have to say all that." "I wanted to." I nodded, heart pounding a little faster than before. She stepped closer, looking up at me. "And I mean it," she said. "You're not just someone I needed. You're someone I chose." I didn't need to respond. Not with words. I just rested my forehead gently against hers, breathing her in, letting the quiet say everything. Whatever this was. It was no longer about fixing things. It was about building something new, together. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The apartment was still and dark, the soft hum of the city just beginning to rise. I walked to the window, pulling the curtain slightly. Across the hall, Emily's light was on. She was awake too. Without thinking, I stepped into the hallway and knocked gently. The door opened almost instantly. Emily was wrapped in a thick sweater, hair tied up, mug in hand. "Couldn't sleep?" I shook my head. "You either." She stepped aside, wordlessly inviting me in. We sat on the floor by her window, knees pulled up, watching the first gold rays cut through the skyline. She passed me her second mug. "Chamomile," she said. "Helps calm my brain when it won't shut off." We didn't talk much. Didn't need to. We just sat there in the quiet, sharing the sunrise like it belonged to us. And somewhere between the sip of tea and the shift in light, she rested her head on my shoulder. "I don't know what we're becoming," she whispered. "But it feels real." "It is real," I said. She turned slightly, eyes locked on mine. "But real things scare me." "I know," I said. "They scare me too." Her fingers brushed against mine, slow and hesitant, then stronger. "I don't want to lose this," she whispered. "You won't," I promised. And I meant it. Because this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some fleeting moment. This was the kind of connection that starts with something small, a knock, a broken fixture, a favor, and slowly becomes the foundation of something that doesn't break so easily. Not if we protect it. Later that week, something changed. Emily knocked on my door, but this time, she wasn't carrying tea or her sketchbook. She was carrying a cardboard mailing tube and her laptop, her eyes filled with both fear and excitement. "I did it," she said. "Did what?" "I sent my portfolio to a gallery," she said. "Not just sketches. Full pieces. Real submissions. For a real exhibit." I stared at her. "That's amazing." She looked down. "I wasn't going to tell you. But then I realized, you're part of the reason I did it." I stepped aside, letting her in. She sat on the couch, fidgeting with her sleeves. "If they say no, I'll survive. But if they say yes, if they actually want to show my work, I need to know I won't lose what we have." I sat beside her. "Emily," I said gently, "your art deserves to be seen. You deserve to be seen. Whether it's in a gallery or here with me." She blinked fast, clearly holding something back. I continued, "This thing between us, it's not some delicate thread that breaks when life shifts. It's stronger than that." She looked at me with soft, shining eyes. "What are we, really?" she asked. "If someone asked you, what would you say?" I smiled. "I'd say we're the kind of story that doesn't need labels to mean something. We're just, us. Figuring it out." She exhaled, like she'd been holding that question in her lungs for days. And then, for the first time, she leaned in, not by accident, not out of confusion, but with full intent. She kissed me. Soft. Slow. Meaningful. When she pulled away, she whispered, "Okay. I'm ready to be seen." And I whispered back, "Good. Because I've been looking at you since day one." 3 weeks later, we stood side by side in a small downtown gallery. Emily's sketches, her story, hung across the walls. Framed, lit, admired. People wandered from piece to piece, murmuring about the depth, the softness, the soul in each drawing. She stood silently, fingers laced in mine. Her drawing of me, the one where I fixed the shower, was front and center. But now, it had a new title below it, "When I Was Finally Seen." I looked at her. "You didn't have to do that." She smiled. "Yes, I did. You were the beginning of this." A couple paused in front of the sketch and commented on how human it felt. How real. Emily squeezed my hand. That night, after the crowd thinned and the gallery lights dimmed, we stayed behind. Just us. No noise. No pressure. She turned to me. "I used to think broken things weren't worth saving. And now? Now I know," she said, resting her head against me, "sometimes the cracks are just where the light gets in." I kissed the top of her head. Outside, the city buzzed on. Life moved. But inside that moment, inside us, there was stillness. Strength. And something beautiful. It all started with a broken shower. But it became a story of healing, of connection, of love built quietly and honestly. Not perfect. Not dramatic. Just real. And sometimes, that's more than enough.